welcome to War Hero to Superhero. This is Daniel Faust, and we are in the Superhero Battle Room. We help military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the prayer room to the boardroom, one veteran at a time, or first responder. We are doing this kind of recorded and live at the same times. This is on a recording, but Erica is live on location because when you're in Hawaii and you go over and you do real estate, you go everywhere and every place. So the Superhero Battle Room sometimes is mobile, and we're going mobile. Erica is an Army veteran that takes the skills of leadership and fortitude to the real estate industry, and she's crushing it. She's crushing it so much, she's in her car taking this interview, and then she's going to get back on the road again. So we're going to bring her forward, and we're going to get this story started. Hey, Erica, do I have you?
You do. I hear you loud and clear.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So mobile and ready to go to answer any question on the fly. So let's go start with this. What inspired for you to join the military family?
I actually joined the military. I'm from a place called Louisville, Kentucky, which is where they have the Kentucky Derby and things like that. I am from an area not far away from there near Iroquois Park. So a lot of people, if you're familiar with the south end of Louisville, I joined the military so I could shoot back at people that were shooting at me. That's the joke I like to tell. But I was going nowhere fast, and I was 17, graduated high school, wanted to do something to get away from Louisville. And I was only 17, so the only thing that I could do that my parents would release me to was the military. So that is what I did to rebel. I joined the Army, and I showed them.
Yeah, you rebelled. I did not. I rebelled by going into the Air Force. So your rebel is a lot harder than my rebel, I tell you, to say the least. So how
Yours is
many
a lot
years of
smarter.
service? No, I went in for a girl, and I never even got to date the girl and anything else. I eventually met my wife, so I wasn't smarter. The only reason I went to the recruiter because of a girl. So I did it on hormones. That was not smart. At least you rebelled to go do something effective. I did it to rebel to go over, like, tried to go ask this girl out. Like I literally asked in the car. So while you're in the car mobile, I was with the girl driving, and I told her I had a crush on her since ninth grade. You know what she told me? I have a boyfriend. Yeah. So went into the recruiter's office and it never spun after that. Emotional decision after emotional decision. I think yours was a lot smarter. But with that, let's go. How long were you in service? And talk about a little bit of the backstory about becoming a veteran, because everybody's veteran story is a little bit different.
Yeah, so I was in the Army for 23 years. So I joined in 1994. Yeah, I just basically, like I said, I joined to rebel against my parents. I was 17 when I joined, 18 years old, moved to Germany. It was my first duty station. And 2 months after my 19th birthday, I was on my first combat deployment to Bosnia. That was back during the Peace Implementation Force time period, so it was a little different than S4. We were actually the first wave of people on the ground. So anybody who's ever been the first wave on a deployment knows how super fun that is because there's no infrastructure. So while I was in Bosnia, I really felt like I was making a difference in the world because I joined the Army, to get away from my parents, but also to maybe get college money in case I wanted to go to college. But while I was in Bosnia, I felt like I was making a difference in the world. And to be 19 years old and feel like you're impacting the world is really powerful. And I had some good leadership who taught me how to depend on myself and how to be strong and independent. And yeah, I loved it. And so then 20 years old, I moved to Hawaii, and that was my first reenlistment was to come to Hawaii. That's where I am currently now. So it took me, 13 years to get back to Hawaii after I left. I left Hawaii in 2000 and then came back 2013 and decided to retire and stay here. I was like, I'm not moving anymore. So.
That's really cool. So with that and retiring and then taking 10 years to get back, how was the transition? Not to say way back then, but like back then, how was that transition?
Well, I PCSed here as a E8. I was a first sergeant. That was in 2013, New Year's Eve 2013, so almost 2014. But I was a first sergeant for about 3 years. Dropped my retirement packet. Had about 6 months to transition out, and it was rough. I was sick at the very end of my career. I had like it's called severe cervical dysplasia. It's like basically it turns into cancer if you don't get it surgically operated on. So I had surgery right before I transitioned out, and so I was pretty sick. I lost a lot of weight. A lot of things were going on, and then I was at Fort Shafter for about 6 months and worked at U.S. Army Pacific Headquarters at the G6 section. Was going to just be a GS employee, had a great job lined up and everything. I took it, well, while I was transitioning out, I got my real estate license before I was even out of the military at my husband's request because he was a home builder. He's like, you should get your real estate license. I said, all right, whatever. I'm going to be a GS, but I'll do it because you think I should. So I got it, and then I started doing sales before I even separated from the military. So that was fabulous. This is before they did SkillBridge and stuff. So I started doing real estate sales and found out that I actually loved real estate and was really good at it. And then they offered me the GS job, and I took that. So I was doing real estate and the GS job. But before that, there was about a 6-month lull in between there while I was on terminal leave and stuff that it wasn't really busy. And I went from being the first sergeant that everybody brings their problems to and running like the wind to somebody who's like broke and sick. And at the same time I was getting out and had the like pre-cancer surgery thing, my hip started going out, and I ended up having a hip replacement like 2 or 3 years later. But my physical health was breaking down, and I was having mental health problems because I felt like I wasn't needed anymore. So the transition for me was not easy. I felt like I didn't have a purpose anymore. So that's why I do so much veteran work now, because I want to let other people know that it does get better. You can occupy yourself. You can be important. You can still be involved with the veterans, even though you're not wearing the uniform anymore. And that's what I try to do. And now I had to give up the GS job because real estate increased so vastly. So that worked out really well. And now I've been full-time real estate for like the last, 4 or 5 years, and started my own brokerage about 3 years ago.
That is a lot to go over and to do. I'm about to take a nap or go into a coma. Like, you went through medical issues, you were trying to do GS employment and real estate, making that transition and everything else, and then moving back to Hawaii. That is like huge. And then I'm hoping that everything is okay now with the health issues, because that's just daunting on itself. So different seasons in that.
Yeah. Everything's
so
stable.
would you So would you say that's the reason why you started serving your community, is after that because of that transition? Or did you go over and when you were doing real estate, you started interacting with veterans? What made you specifically to go serve the community of real estate and veterans?
So that's a good question. I think service has always been a part of my personality. I love to serve others. There are different spiritual gifts. If you're religious, then you've probably heard this term before, but many people feel like they're operating at their full potential when they're doing something that is in their wheelhouse. So for me, I'm very strong in administrative, which lends itself to real estate and being a supervisor in the military, as well as service. I like to serve others. I like to make other people's lives better. And so that's why I got into service. Some people are good. They have different gifts than I do. Like, some people are better at like prayer. Some people are better at patience and compassion and things like that. But for me, it's service. It's helping others. So I lived on the North Shore of Oahu, which is a very small community. So Haleiwa and Wailua are the 2 towns up here, and everybody knows each other and everybody helps each other. And so I started out on just helping neighbors, and then ended up getting a seat on the North Shore Neighborhood Board. And then as a business owner, I started going to the North Shore Chamber of Commerce meetings, and that led me to now I have a seat on the North Shore Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. So we help plan community events and support business on the North Shore. The North Shore Neighborhood Board ensures that the country stays country, and we assist with making decisions and informing the public about things going on in our community. And then one of my clients, actually, because I have a lot of military clients, got me into this organization called Irreverent Warriors, which is where my heart is. That's the most important thing to me. I love the Chamber of Commerce and Business, but Irreverent Warriors is an organization. It's worldwide, so look for a chapter in your area. It's irreverent, not irrelevant. Irreverent Warriors. We bring veterans together using humor and camaraderie to improve veteran mental health and prevent suicide. So that is like my very favoriteest thing that I do. That's a volunteer, nonprofit type thing. And we do quarterly events and a large hike called the Silkies Hike every year. And one of my lieutenants, we actually lost to suicide, and I was pretty close to her, and it was very difficult for me. So that happened about a year before I gave up being a first sergeant as well. So when I was separating, there was quite a bit going on. But that was just one more thing that was going on, and it stayed unresolved for a while until I got a reasonable amount of counseling and therapies and realized that it probably wasn't my fault because work wasn't the only thing going on. But because I felt like maybe I could have done something or said something different, I seek that now to maybe make a difference in somebody else's life because I missed that opportunity with my lieutenant. So.
Yeah, that is a lot to go over and to deal with. And you've gone through a lot of tough times, a lot of pressures, and those types of things. I just want the audience to absorb that for a moment. Actively being a first sergeant. So if a civilian audience is listening, it is kind of like being like a chaplain in a sense, a non-religious chaplain helping with all types of things with people. And then she's dealing with health issues and dealing with mental health issues herself, and then all the other deployments and everything else. It is a huge thing to go over an ordeal. And maybe this question will go over and figure out how you got through it. What is your secret fuel when the pressure and the tough times come? Because you went through insurmountable just in the few minutes that we've been speaking that you've gone to.
I think being honest with yourself and other people. I'm pretty transparent with my feelings for the most part. And although when I was a first sergeant, I had to tamper it down a little bit, so I didn't come off too emotional or whatever. Because, if you're a female in the military, you better not ever cry and don't show any bit of emotion. Otherwise, then you're an emotional wreck, right? So trying to keep that balance between being ice queen and being overly emotional was difficult. But once I separated from the military, it's just really opening up. It's letting other people know, like, of course, Facebook is like your highlight reel, right? But I'll also put on Facebook, like, hey, this is what happened today, and it sucked. This is where a client, sucked all this information out of me and then went to another realtor, and I don't get that commission, and it sucked. Or this is where I feel used up today, or this is where I feel tired, or this is where I feel fat, or this is where I feel fine. Like you're going to go through a range of emotions. And I think being really open with yourself and your peers can assist, because nobody's going to help you unless you let them know, like, shit sucks right now. I need help. And so I think being very upfront with your emotions can be valuable, and that's the only way that you're going to get that support, and having a great friend group. But to have good friends, you have to be a good friend. So I think that's what a lot of people miss. They want to contact you when they're having a rough time, but it's like, I also want to be your friend when things are great. Like, don't just call me when your world's falling apart. Like, let's form a relationship, and let's be friends when things are good, and let's be friends when things are not good, so we can have that bond and move forward together. And that's my friend group. I'm very thankful for them and my family.
I think that's like the golden nugget that you went over and said, being a friend in the good and the bad and the ugly, because that's huge. You don't see that much nowadays. It's like highlight reels go into all the positive or it goes in the really negative, but are you going to be there in the chat, in the DMs, on the phone, on the video, or person to person if you're local, through the thick and thin in that particular regards? I think veterans have that unique bond to stay together, but I think it's even a more unique bond when a veteran makes that choice. It's good, it's bad, and ugly, and I'm going to stay through the course. So that's huge. And that might even tie to maybe one of your tactics. This is a question I don't give anybody until they go live. So I didn't give them all to you. So this is a live question for you. 3 superhero tactics. So either think of when you got out of the service, or maybe when you went into service, or maybe someone that you're coaching. What would you give them as superhero tactics that they can go over and thrive and not hit that just survive mode?
Oh, man. To thrive and not just survive. I think looking forward, you always have to look forward. I mean, it's good. It's important to live in today, but look forward. Look forward to, like, where are you going to be in 6 months? Where are you going to be in a year? Where you want to be in 5 years? And start making a plan towards those goals. Not just what can you do for yourself, but what can you do for others? Especially if you're dealing with hard stuff yourself, how can you help other people? Because that helping others really is fulfilling. It keeps you busy, which sometimes is, I stay a little too busy, but it gives me the opportunity to help other people and give them tools they might not have. And then number 3, so it's a little inappropriate, but what I tell my agents, I have like 6 agents at my brokerage. I'm like, number 1, the client comes first, and just don't be a dick. At the end of the day, if you can do something nice for somebody, do it. If things are hard, that's great. Let's come through it together. Let's make it a win-win for everybody. And just at the end of the day, don't be a dick.
That brings the Army back right back into the show. It's amazing. And it's totally fine. This is rated not for kids, just so you know, on YouTube or any place that you're listening. So
Well, most of my
being frank
agents are
sometimes.
veterans or spouses. So.
Mhm. Yeah, and most of our audience is military, veteran, first responder. So they couldn't take that. Wow, I might be the clean one, but I'm the rare one. So, all right. So finalizing this out, love for you to talk about this website that's been scrolling on the banner the entire time, seaside808.com. And then I'm going to let you close up the show, either one quote or one little tidbit you want to give, and then I'm going to fade to credits. So the floor is now yours.
Okay, so yeah, like I kind of mentioned, I started my own brokerage. So I am not a member of a larger brokerage. Seaside Realty is owned by me. I started it. I'm not a subsidiary of any of the big box names that you may be familiar with. So if you're moving to Hawaii and want to support an actual veteran-owned brokerage, not a team or anything else owned by someone on the mainland, Seaside Realty is where you should go. If you are at all interested in anything, any house or property to rent or purchase that is near the ocean, I have an engineer on staff, I have lawyers on call, and I have more knowledge than I would venture 98% of the agents on this island, especially if you're dealing with something in a special management area, which means near the ocean. Let's see. Yeah, so you can look on my website. You can see a little bit about my story. You can see some of my client appreciation events, and you can meet some of my agents virtually by looking through them and seeing their pictures. As I mentioned before, most of them are prior military or spouses, so that'll give you a little insight into us. And the thing I would say is, like, that little tidbit to take away is, I didn't invent it, but I think it's like Gandhi or something. It's be the change you want to see in the world. Because if you're not paying it forward and you're not being that change, nothing will ever change. So it starts with you every day, the choices that you make from the second you get up, how you're going to react to people, because you can't choose your circumstances, but you can absolutely choose your reaction. And so choose how you're going to react, and just know that people are like garbage trucks. They go around, they pick up the dumpster of stuff, they put it in the back, they go to the next house, they pick up the dumpster of stuff, they put it in the back. Sometimes they dump it out on you, and you're like, whoa, you have to realize that's not my garbage. It's their garbage, and try to be graceful.